Hi, in this video we're going to cover the Elliott wave theory in just 6 minutes, and we're going to decipher the enigma of market forecasting. This will be the first of a series of videos on the wave principle that will cover from wave theory for beginners all the way to advanced Elliott wave analysis. But it's not just going to be informative. This is going to be an implementation program on one of the best analytical tools that we have ever seen, or at least that we have seen in the past 100 years. Let's get to it. In the 1930s, using the stock market as his main research tool, R.N. Elliott noticed that social behavior moves, trends, and reverses in recognizable patterns. He carefully observed the stock market trends and was able to isolate 13 patterns that we call waves. These waves happen over and over again in the price data. So Elliott took each one of these patterns, named them and illustrated them to create what we know today as the Elliott wave principle. Now, before we move on, let's talk about the two major benefits of Elliott wave analysis. First, it helps us transform an infinite number of possibilities into a handful of probabilities, and that in turn produces a psychological transformation that we experience progressively as we gain experience and confidence forecasting and interpreting what prices can do. Beyond that, the biggest contribution that the wave principle brings is that of predicting accurately where the market is more likely to move next. And I know that many viewers will start arguing it is impossible to forecast the market, and the only thing that matters in trading is probabilities or trading strategies. Well, that will be the subject of a different video. For now, let's go back to understanding the basics of financial market waves. What you see in front of you summarizes the entire wave theory. I know that many of you are under the impression that the wave principle is extremely complex and abstract. Well, at the Technical Analysis Institute, we think the opposite. In fact, the extraordinary simplicity of the wave principle can be deceiving. It is so unbelievably simple that it feels like going back to kindergarten, where you learn how to count up to 5 and you also learn your ABCs. That's all there is to wave counting. 5 waves in one direction and 3 waves in the opposite direction. Simple. But simple is not necessarily easy, and because of that, way too many people try to learn the wave principle using the same approach they would use for learning other trading tools, and they fail. At its most basic level, wave analysis is simply the identification of patterns in market prices. What patterns, you ask? As technicians, we believe that anything that can possibly affect the price, being political, economical, psychological, or otherwise like a natural disaster, will indeed be reflected on price. Hence, the study of price is all that is required. And price forms patterns. As I said earlier, Elliott identified 13 of such wave patterns. To make things easier for you, we're going to divide those 13 patterns into 2 major categories: motive and corrective waves. Motive waves are the ones that go in the direction of the main market trend, and they always develop in 5 waves labeled with numbers. They can form impulses and diagonals. This is the textbook image of an impulse. Each wave is labeled with a number. And this is how an impulse looks in real life. They are not always as clear as in this example, but it helps you to see what you can be looking for. This is the textbook image of a diagonal. Because diagonals are motive waves, they too are labeled with numbers 1 through 5. Corrective waves are the ones that interrupt the trend, and they always develop in 3 waves. They are labeled with letters A, B, C. They can be zigzags, flats, and triangles. This is the image of a zigzag. Here is the A, the B, and the C. Notice that wave B travels about 50% of the distance traveled by wave A. A flat is very similar to a zigzag. except that wave B travels all the way to the origin of wave A. It's also labeled as ABC. And finally, a triangle is a sideways structure, and although it has 5 legs, it is labeled with letters because it is a corrective structure. So we use A, B, C, D, and E to label its 5 legs. Yes, there are the famous Fibonacci ratios and sequence that form the mathematical basis of the wave principle. There are rules and guidelines, but what we just covered is indeed the Elliott wave theory in a nutshell. And I'm sure you're thinking, that cannot be right. You mentioned 13 patterns and only showed a handful of them. And you're right. The reason is because the other patterns are simple variations of these main patterns. So let's say that this quick introduction was the wave theory for beginners in a nutshell. But don't worry, we're going to have all Elliott wave patterns explained in details during this series. For now, if you want to become a serious student of the Elliott wave theory and forecast any market with great accuracy, here is what you must learn from this video. There are 2 main modalities of wave formations: motive and corrective. Motive waves move in the direction of the main trend and can take the shape of impulses or diagonals. Corrective waves interrupt the trend and can take the shape of zigzags, flats, or triangles. If you want to have supporting notes, quizzes, and webinars where we delve deeply into wave analysis, join our exclusive membership and elevate your trading journey fast. Motive waves develop in 5 and are labeled with numbers 1 through 5. Corrective waves develop in 3 and are labeled with letters A, B, C. In a different video, we will discuss if it is indeed possible to forecast. Until then, ride the Elliott waves to success.